Hey, now my chicken bone broth stock is starting to run a little bit low, so it's time to replenish that. So today I am going to be cooking up some chicken, and this actually happens to be this massive 10-pound chicken that my in-laws raised and cleaned and gave to me. It's going to be absolutely delicious. Now I'm going to be making this bone broth using this chicken and my easy instant pot method. This is going to be a lot less time consuming than having a big pot going for 24, 36 hours or something like that to really get at the bones and everything like that. So come along for the ride. Now, I don't want to cook this whole chicken up like this. I'm actually going to be just breaking this into primals and then using the carcass and bones from the thighs here for the chicken stock. So I'm just going to get this broken up here really quickly. Okay, so I have broken that up into primals. I also removed the bones from the thighs. I also left just a little bit of meat on here because I like that. Also, I wasn't super finicky when I was taking apart this carcass. I mean, it's a huge bird, so I've got lots of meat to eat anyway. Now, you can see this one also included the neck here. The plan, because we're going to be using the Instant Pot here, and we're going to be trying to just get as much of the goodness out of the bones as possible, is you do just kind of want to chop up some of this here. The neck, it doesn't have to all be actually separated as long as you've actually got access to the bones. So I'm just going to hack away here at the carcass. And here we go, hack job complete. And we just have access to all the little bones here. Everything's kind of broken up, just like this. I'm just gonna do the same here with these thigh bones. Sort of open them up. Awesome, okay, and the chicken is ready. Also, because the chicken has really thick skin, I wound up removing that. I'm not going to be cooking it with that on there, and that is going to join everything in the pressure cooker as well. Once you have your bones chopped and ready here, you can either deal with it immediately, or if you're like me, I didn't have time yesterday, so I just put that in an airtight container, let it sit in the fridge overnight. We're ready to go now. So you do want to get a little bit of veg in here. You don't want it to be just the bones, so you can go for some of the classics here, like I'm going to be incorporating some onion, which I'm just going to give a rough chop here. Some fresh garlic. I'm just going to be using 3 cloves here, and I'll just basically chop them in half. Of course, we're going to add some celery. Again, just rough chop. And a gnarly looking carrot from the garden here. Again, rough chop. Now we do want to brown this up a little bit here. That's going to give us maximum flavor in our finished broth. You could certainly use the saute setting on the Instant Pot, but I do find it's a little bit quicker just to use a large frying pan and cook things up that way. And that's because we have just a little bit more surface area here. I do like to add a little bit of either oil, fat. I'm actually using some bacon grease here, tallow, something like this, just to prevent some of the sticking of the chicken. Now, since my chicken was so huge, I'm going to do this in 2 batches because I've got more than enough bones here to do 2 runs through the Instant Pot. I'm gonna pop in the chicken and that veg that I cut up. And we're just gonna let it kick around in here until we have some nice browning. While this is sauteing, I am going to season it with a couple teaspoons of kosher salt and just some fresh cracked black pepper. Now, another alternative to this would be roasting this in your oven. You could get it nice and browned up that way. However, I just like using the pan for this. One other thing I am gonna pop in here too is some of that skin. I saved that from the chicken because there's no point in letting that go to waste. Get a little color on that too. Now that we have some color on everything here, I'm just going to add it into my Instant Pot. I also did just a really quick deglaze of this pan here with some water just to pick up any of that extra flavor that had adhered. I did turn the Instant Pot onto the saute function just before I dropped everything in here, just to kind of help preheat it. And now using filtered water, I'm going to add a whole bunch here to the Instant Pot. Now I don't want to fill this up all the way. I've got it about 3/4 full, and that was 3 quarts of filtered water that I put in there. And final ingredient here is just some fresh herbs. I'm just going with some parsley and thyme that was in the greenhouse. And now I'm actually using my soup setting here, but either way you want to have this going for 2 hours on the high pressure, which you can either do through manual or soup or whatever, but we have a nice 2-hour pressure cook going on here. After that initial 2-hour pressure cook here, you could just let it naturally depressurize and then strain it and go from there. However, if you want it nice and extra gelatinous, what you can do here is run a second cycle on low pressure and give it another 2 hours. So that's what I'm going to do. After that second round in the pressure cooker here, my broth is ready. So I'm just going to pick out all the large pieces that I've got in here, and then we're going to strain. With a good amount of the larger pieces, the carrots and the bones and all that kind of stuff out of here, I'm now just going to run through a metal sieve into the stainless bowl just to strain out anything that I wasn't able to capture before. And now with my strained broth here, ooh, gorgeous. Just going to get this into some mason jars. I'm going to have a variety of these here. I'm going to have some 8-ounce or 250 ml jars, as well as some pint size or the 500 ml jars. That'll just give me some nice options for when I actually go to use this in my cooking. With these, I'm going to try to fill them up so they're somewhere between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch from the top, and then I'm going to have them ready for the pressure canner. Now this batch here made 6 of these pint or 500 ml jars and 1 of my 8-ounce or 250 ml jars. So I actually gained an extra 8 ounces of liquid beyond the 3 quarts that I had initially put in the Instant Pot. Time for round 2. And I'm just finishing packaging up round number 2 here. I should note that if you want, you can totally add extra salt to this if you want to season it up. The way that I've got this right now, it's definitely sort of a lower sodium bone broth here. However, that's how I like it because I'm always using this in gravies and different sauces and rice and stuff like that, which I also like to season on my own on a case-by-case basis. In the pressure canner, I'm going to give these 20 minutes because of those pint size or 500 ml jars, and I'm doing this here at 12 pounds of pressure. That's just based on my elevation. Just follow whatever you need to do for where you live. And once the pressure has died down, I'm going to pull these out and let them cool on the counter. Here's our bone broth the next day after kind of cooling down and all these jars sealed up really nicely there. Taking a look up at the top here, you can see all that rich awesomeness floating up on top, and even just the consistency of this here, it's fairly jelly-like. That's what happens here when we get all of that gelatin, everything coming out of those bones and all the goodness that we had in there. So it's rich, it's delicious. We have that low original salt in there because we can always add salt in any recipe I put this in, but you can't take away salt. So I like to start out a little bit lower on this. And it's really nice just to have a nice bone broth and you know exactly everything that's in it. It's really good for you. And I mean, hey, with that Instant Pot method, sitting there and using that, it's so easy. It takes way less time. You don't have to sit there and just monitor some pot while it's bubbling away for a day or two, anything like that. So it couldn't be easier. Please give it a whirl. If you do try it out, let me know what you think of this process. And until next time, keep her at 11.